as you saw in the last video, we are, just making sure I'm connected, very close to driving this thing. Let me show you that it starts still. So, coming over here, just like that. But the fact that it starts is great, but what doesn't help is that we're nowhere near getting this actually done. So let me take you over to the engine bay and show you what we're actually dealing with. So as we look into this engine bay, I can show you a thing or two. Firstly, this is on, but it's not on properly. I checked at the turbo the other day and it's not quite sorted. It's not on square, which is not ideal. Radiator, not plumbed, it's plumbed in, but it's not bolted to. We got a random vac line here, which is going to be for a boost gauge in the cab. I've done that, so it'll run nicely. Fan wiring, so on the factory setup, these two plugs go into here. This goes into a sensor on the radiator, which tells the fan a high or low speed. It doesn't seem to be working, so I'm probably just going to wire them straight to each other and then put a switch on the inside and then just turn it on every time we drive it. Another thing is I need to put this on. What's this, you may ask? Well, this is what I want power steering. So the one that's on there has been cut about here because it just needs the alternator and nothing else. The alternator bolts into these two, and he didn't run power steering before, so I want to try and put that back on. So we need the full size bracket. I've already bolted the pump onto it because you can still get to those two holes. I don't know if you can see, one in there, one in there. But so that's just a couple of things that need to be doing in the engine bay. So the first thing I'm going to do is take that alternator off and try swap this bracket around, because I wanted to do that before we mount the radiator. So this is going to be quite hard to see without taking the boost pipe off, which I don't want to do if I'm honest. So we just need to get 15mm on the tensioner, pull that back, and then without trapping our fingers in the belt, we're going to move that to the side. I've still got tension on the belt. It's very, very, very close to the chassis leg. I've never really quite realised how close the engine is to the chassis leg, you know. We just need to slip the belt off of somewhere. Usually it'd be off the tensioner, but it's that close to the chassis leg that I can't get it past. It just smells of coolant. It's all I can smell is coolant. There you go. And that is the belt off. I don't know how we're going to get that out. It's going to drop out through the bottom. We go down here. Oh, I ain't got the handbrake on. Right, so that's the belt out. I'll get that out in a minute. Now we've got to take this tensioner off, which is 3 13mm bolts. So once we've gone through and taken off the 3 13mm bolts for this tensioner, we can get that out of the way, which gives us a lot of space and access to the bolts that we need to get off that bracket, so we can install our new one with the power steering belt. So now we're coming across the alternator. On the back of the alternator there is a wire, a power wire, that goes to the starter motor, which backfeeds to the battery, which is how your battery charges when the belt is spinning on the alternator. So once we got that out of the way, it's literally 2 bolts that go all the way through, really long bolts, and then we can move the alternator out of place and then finally get access to the 2 bolts that we need to get this bracket off. The alternator is always going to be in there really stiff. They've got some self-adjusting bushes in there, so when you tighten it down, it proper clamps to that bracket. But with a little bit of a pry, as you can see here with the screwdriver, the alternator drops down and I can just wiggle it out of place.
And then finally, after just getting these last 2 bolts out, which I got the other 2 out a minute ago, we can finally get this bracket out of place and get ready to put in our new one that isn't cut, that does have our power steering pump on it, so we can finally have that power steering back once again. And as you probably guessed, now the old one's out of the way, it's time to struggle to get this new one in. Obviously, this one was a little bit longer and had a pump in the way, so I wasn't too sure which way to get it into place. But easily enough, through that gap that you can see on the left, it went straight down, straight into place. Obviously, it's a bit hard to line it up and hold it and thread a bolt in, so it took a minute. But just a couple of bolts in, that got it tightened down, and then we were ready to reinstall the tensioner and the belt.
So I haven't put the alternator on yet, but you can see that now, right down the bottom there, we have our power steering pump. I know that pulley looks a mile out. It's because I come up it, I've put it on the wrong way around. So the pulley just needs taken off, rotating 180 degrees, and then putting back on. And so now, after getting them bolts back in, we just need the alternator back on, and then I will need to order a new auxiliary belt, because obviously that one is going to be far too short. See if I can get it off now. It's a good thing I did this as well, because the condition of this belt was horrible. Firstly, that doesn't look great. And look at the cracking on that. You see? There, dear. That is horrible. So it is a good thing we took that off, because we would have needed to replace that anyway.
So getting straight back into it, getting that alternator back into place, we're getting it down. Obviously, as I said earlier about the bushes, you can see them on the bottom of the alternator. I'm just using my ratchet as a hammer just to knock them down a little bit, because once they are in place, they are a very, very tight fit. So when you have the alternator off, it's quite common that you need to push them back a little bit to be able to get them back into place, and then when you tighten down, they will self-adjust, and then it will become solid in place once again. But just some 2 15mm bolts, the long ones, back into place, tightening them down, and then we are ready for when the new belt arrives. We can just pop it on using the same method of the tensioner, taking the tensioner off, routing the belt round, and then adding the tension back. And then finally, as I just said, the tensioner is going back into place, held in by the 3 13mm bolts. Get those tightened down, and then we are ready to go. And that is our power steering issue sorted. We just need to hook up the lines, which is really easy.
So while we're still in this corner, you can see I've just cut this plug off. Where's this plug go? Right there. That is obviously for coolant temp. To be honest, that bottle sits a little bit high. Don't even know if the bonnet's going to shut with that there. Should probably test that before I go creating little wires, wire and loom extensions. So we're about to have the first experience in that. I'm still thinking about the fan. Don't know what to do about the fan. Right, so that goes on there, and then throw this in there for a sec. No, we got a problem there. Oh wait, do we? Oh, I don't know if we do have a problem, you know. Right, that sits on that side. Okay, yeah, we do definitely have a problem there. Yeah, it's pressed hard up against it. Okay, that's fine. Just means we need to try and lower it a little bit, which is fine. We could probably just end up doing that, tilting it down until it fits, and then I can just take that hose off and then route it round. That's fine. Either way, we've got this plug. The wiring for this plug is here, all the way in the other side of the engine bay. So let's extend these wires. Right, so sticking over to this left side of the car, we've just extended that sensor plug. Get that out of the way for a minute. That's irrelevant, I can actually pull that out now. But we obviously need to modify this bracket here that holds our coolant tank on, because as we just discovered with the bonnet, it's sitting too high, which is not ideal in any means. So what we're going to do is we're going to just take the bolts of this bracket out. There's the bracket. What I'm thinking is, because there's two bits that stick out, we had it here like this, and there's one directly below it, which the only thing stopping it from going in, well, I don't actually know what is stopping it from going in. So we relocate that down, in theory, because this originally was over by where our air intake is, but now basically everything on the car is being swapped round. So like where our air intake was our cooling system, and now where our cooling system is, our air intake is. So we've got to make some modifications, which is to be expected when you are building a car of this nature. Nothing, well, not nothing, but most of it isn't going to be simple. Most of it's going to be specially made parts and extending wires and, you know, all of that sort of stuff. So now I've got that bolted down there, in theory this tank can just sit in here now. I don't know what was stopping that a minute ago. So there, what's stopping that now? From sitting like that. Oh, it's this intercooler pipe. So if this intercooler pipe was up, that would sit. How are we like basically at the same spot as before? We're like lower, but not low enough for it to work. So we do need to figure out something here. Don't know what yet, but we need to figure something out, because we can't just leave it, unfortunately. We just need it to sit there like that. That'd be cool. That'd be very cool. So, as you can see now, that bottle is mounted a lot lower. Might make it a bit more difficult to bleed, but ultimately it is lower. So if we carry on coming over to this side of the car, we have got something missing from this vicinity where the air filter is. Again, we're gonna have to make some more space, but this is where this sits. And if you know what that is a screen wash bottle. So we need to figure out a way of getting that bottle back there and for it to function. I believe one of these is supposed to go to the rear, but I don't know. Either way, we just need the fronts in. Let's get this plumbed in. I'm going to go grab the bottle. Fingers crossed it'll fit straight in, but it probably won't. Do you know, I've just pushed that bottle in, and although I need to move these wires that are sitting underneath it, it's not actually sitting too badly. Only thing that I can see initially is that it is putting a lot of pressure on this. You can see that's like hard up against it. So, and then what I've got here is, I believe, the indicator. Yeah, one of the indicators. And then that can just sit around here very nicely. Oh, and I'm gonna guess that's the one that goes there, which is the rear, which we'll leave plumbed in. Not that I'll probably have a rear wiper, but we'll leave it plumbed in anyway. And then there's our next problem. I need to extend a couple of more wires to get the plug to where it needs to go. So if I show you down here, so you're not going to be able to see, it's not very light, right down the bottom here, this is the plug, and there is where it needs to get to, and it's hard up. I could pull the whole loom a bit, but then I quite like that down there tucked in the corner. That's the wire that we extended earlier. That is for our coolant, that one's for our coolant bottle, and then that one's for our indicator, and then that one, I have no idea. We will find that out when something doesn't work. Right, with all that wired up and in, let's try putting a bit of screen wash in here, in my lovely little watering can. Turn the key on, and that's gone everywhere but where I wanted. Just get it high enough to make sure that seal is sealing. There you go. Right, we're halfway at the bottle on that. There's 2 litres in there. We'll soon find out if it's leaking or not. Need to put that battery negative back on because I undone it for the alternator. So if I come here now, oh, there, crusty. How do I do the wipers? Right, either I'm doing something wrong, I don't know what I'm doing. Right. Our wiper motor's obviously not working. Oh no, the wiper motor's working, but the old screen wash bottle motor is not working, so we need to have a look at why. No. Right. We could just have a fuse out or something, you know, but we got it wired in, we can figure that out later. So, as you can see, that camera angle's awful. As you can see, with what we got left of this car, to get it sort of roadworthy, not complete but roadworthy, is very tedious. We're sorting out lots of little things, brackets, wiring connections, putting things back where they should go. So some of this will be done off camera, but anything that's like remotely interesting, then I will film. For example, changing that washer bottle motor. It's literally pull one out, push one in. It's sorted. Like I said, I do need to look at a couple of things on the body, like rust wise, or where somebody's put in a new patch of metal and they haven't welded all the way around. I've noticed that a couple of times, so I do need to pay attention to that when I get it back up on the ramp. We need to do brakes. Do we need to do bushes? I don't think we need to do any bushes. We definitely need to do brakes, so potentially suspension as well. Obviously we need to get an MOT for it, sort the lights out. Interior, that isn't the most important thing because you can send a car for MOT with no interior. Like, it's not an MOT requirement to have a carpet on the floor, but obviously if I can present it as nice as I can for the MOT tester, that'd be great. What I'm going to do now is probably make some brackets for that radiator. Again, all I'm doing is I'm going to be getting a square bit of metal, probably about that big, putting a right angle in it, and then bolting it to the top of the, I just realised you can't see where I'm pointing at, the top of the scuttle panel at the front of the bonnet, whatever you want to call it, I don't know what it's called. But like, that's all we're going to be doing with that one. So very boring bits going on. But these are the bits that are going to be, you know, making the car. I need to get a new one of these, which is ambient air temp or air intake temp, because this is reading like -40. So obviously the car isn't very happy, thinking that it's having nice cool air when it's actually getting 10-15 degrees worth. Obviously I need to wire in a switch for the fan. I need to I either need to wire in a switch for the fan, or I need to figure out how to make it work on that thermo relay, which, to be honest, the lazy part of me wants us to wire in a fan, because let's be honest, there's no harm in just having a fan on. It'll get up to temperature, no problem. Waiting for the tacho adapter, waiting for that. I need to order a 1.3 Mark II Golf 1.3 Speedo cable, because that's the one that works with the gearbox that I have. I think it's an 02J gearbox. And then yeah, just buttoning up those little pieces really. I need to probably get some coilovers, let's be honest. Can't really just leave it like that high off the floor. Yeah, auxiliary bell, need to switch that pulley around. I'm going to get it up in the ramp in a minute, and then we'll take another look underneath.
So fast forward in time, we've actually gone completely onto a different section now. We're off the ramp, I had to use it for something else. And then we are doing the front brakes, and on this offside, which is where we're working at the moment, I actually discovered that the wheel bearing had gone seriously bad. But as you can imagine, whoever's worked on this car last has no consideration for anything or anyone, and has just rounded the 2 bolts that go into the back of here, which unfortunately I do end up reusing temporarily until I get new ones, because obviously you don't expect somebody to round off 7mm hex bolts which hold your caliper on. You see right there, I literally tried to show you. Caliper off, obviously I'm dangling it, yes, but when I tell you that these calipers are so light, it's unbelievable. You see there, I was wobbling that then, it was massively loose. Now I'm just tapping the track rod end. I'm not hitting the actual track rod, I'm hitting the knuckle that the track rod goes through, because that's how you get them off. You send a bit of vibration through them, and they do tend to just drop down. A couple of 19mm bolts holding the strut in place, because we do have to remove the whole hub to get this wheel bearing off, as they are a press fit rather than a bolt in, which is really annoying, and you don't really find it too much nowadays, I don't think. But we just had to do what we got to do, so we're going to crack on, get this hub out, and then we can press the new bearing out and get the new one in. New braces, new ball bearings, we got to pack them with grease. It's a bit of a tedious process. And then here, the bottom ball joint, I could have just taken off the 3 bolts at the bottom, but I didn't, because I didn't want to get it in the way when it comes to putting it in to the vise. And yeah, we got that out. I'm just inspecting that ball joint, and I missed a load here. I did it all, I didn't film it, I completely forgot. I was just cracking on with it, I got distracted. But you can see our nice shiny new brake discs. These are MK2 discs. Some people don't like them. I've never had an issue with them. They're cheap enough to run, but they seem to do the job in hand. And this is sort of a last ditch effort before I do a brake upgrade. Hopefully, with the additional power that we're gaining, these discs and pads will be enough just to sort of keep it under control without getting brake fade, because that's the last thing you want, is getting brake fade when you're going really quickly. Obviously we know that I'm not explicitly tracking this car, but obviously from time to time we'll be driving it fairly fast, so this is a cheap sort of way to upgrade your brakes without changing any calipers and stuff. And at the end of the day, if I start getting brake fade all the time, or they're not efficient enough, I will just have to bite the bullet and get a brake upgrade. But everything in reverse, back on, them 2 bolts back in the rear. That blue stuff is anti-squeal, slide and paste, just to make sure that everything is nice and free.
So, you saw, basically, the last thing you saw was me putting the front disc back on the front after taking the hub off and pressing in the new bearing. Didn't record that, truthfully. I should have, because it's actually quite good content. And then on the rear, I've also done rear discs and pads. We have run into an issue which I will show you right now. I didn't record the rear because truthfully I did it on a bit of a spot while I was tight for time, so I couldn't really get the camera out. But again, probably should have, because it's pretty cool because it showed you how to rebuild a rear wheel bearing and, you know, press in a race. Because if you didn't know, on the back of the Mark II Golfs, the hub and the bearing and the disc is all one unit. But when it comes to pushing back this caliper, it was, you see it's not that far out, okay, but it's seized solid, and I thought, oh, I'll try crack the bleed nipple off, see if I can, you know, look at that, straight up snapped. So this is seized, bleed nipple snapped. So I thought, do you know what, for 45 quid I'll just get a new caliper. So I'm currently waiting on one of those. Should have it this morning so I can get this back on the floor. I'll show you this in a minute. I'll put gloves on, but I snapped both things. So what's next? I'll show you what I bought. Get into the boot. I bought this 7mm thick insulation, because at the end of the day I know this is an old car and it's going to be rattly and all that anyway, but it'd be nice to have a little bit of quietness. So obviously previously I've ripped up all the insulation off the floor. Obviously the old insulation is really weird. It's like, I don't know, dusty and horrible, and probably isn't even really effective anymore. So I'm going to clean the interior floor. I'm going to put all of that down, and then we can actually probably get the carpet back in, and then once we get the carpet back in, we get the seats back in, and then we can actually you know, sit in the car. So that is the plan of action.
So, as you can see here, I'm literally just hoovering up all the mess. I've been in and out of here. There's connectors on the floor, wires, just loads of dirt, loads of broken up old insulation. So I'm just making sure to hoover out as much of it as I possibly can. You can see I kept jamming the end of the hoover due to the endless amount of stuff that was just in here. So once I finish hoovering, I can get the measuring tape out and I can figure out how much of this insulation I need. I'm literally just going for a rectangle in each footwell, not even all the way to the back, just a little bit. So once I've done that, I can go over to my material, cut it, peel the back off and press it down. As simple as that. And hopefully this will make a little bit of a difference with road noise and just general comfort of the car. Obviously the carpet is made with that insulation on the floor, so if I didn't put that in, it could be a bit baggy, it might not fit right. So I'm just making a little bit of an effort just to try and make it a little bit nicer in there. I'm probably going to end up putting a patch in the doors and on the roof and in the boot and anywhere I can, because this stuff is really light, so it's not like it's adding hundreds and hundreds of kilograms of weight either.
So you get the gist of that. Putting a bit of sound insulation down, just so it's a little bit of a nicer drive, you know, not all rattly and horrible and road noise. So I'm going to do that now. Obviously I've got to do that one for each footwell, probably do the boot, and if I've got the stuff left over, I'm going to slap a little bit into each door, because somebody once told me that a lot of your road noise comes through your doors, so I'll do that as well. I don't know about the roof. There is some like foamy stuff on the roof already, so I might just leave that alone. But that's the look we're going for in each footwell. So I'm going to crack on with that now, and I will show you the end result. So if I take you over to this car, can you see the vibe that we're going with? We've got a patch in each footwell. We'll do a patch on the back underneath the seat, and then we'll do a patch in the boot. And then judging by the amount of roll left, we will have enough to put a patch in each door as well. So it's not loads and loads, and that stuff's very, very light. So it's not like I'm adding like hundreds of kgs to do this. I don't know if you can see over there. Let's see if I can zoom into it. then blue, that blue and red pipe sort of there to my finger. That's for the central lock-in, and there's none of that down this side of the car. So I think what I'm going to do one day is fit like an aftermarket electric central lock-in, because obviously it's convenient and I'd love for it to work. So yeah, that's where we are so far. And also I've got all of this crap in the boot that I need to clear out. That boot's nearly full with crap. So yeah, next step will be getting the carpets in. So I made a purchase for this vehicle, headlights, but I don't know if I like them. So here's the headlight in question. I've already made a little bracket for them to fit. You see that? Little halo ring, high beam, low beam. But truthfully, I just don't know if I do like them or not. I think I might just have a look out for a pair of just regular lights. Keep it a bit more retro style. I thought they were going to look really cool, but I've wired them up. I've not put them in or anything, but it's what we got for now. The old headlights were sacrificed to make brackets for them, so that's that. And my headlight wiring's a mess as well, so that is mind blowing. I don't know what anyone's done with that, but when you turn the side lights on, all the lights come on. Can't just have side lights. It's doing my head in. But I'd rather side light and main and regular beam coming on at the same time rather than neither coming on. So that's annoying, but that's that. Let me know your opinion on those lights. I personally think I'm going to go back to some halogen lights, but let me know what you think of those. So after putting down that bit of insulation, I put it down a bit under the rear seat, I can now start putting back in the carpet. This has been sat in a container for ages now. This is going to just give me a bit more motivation just to get everything done. It's a little bit dirty, but doesn't smell too bad, and it's dry. When I first got it out, it was soaking wet, so that's that. I'm going to get the carpet in, front and rear. I think I can get away with putting both in now, so that's good. I'm going to do that, and then we can try and get the seats in. I think I'm missing a piece, so I'll show you that in a minute. So I got the middle section of carpet in. I've decided that the boot carpet is way too far gone to put back in, so let me show you what I'm doing. Here is the boot, just giving it a nice little clean, and then over here is the boot carpet. That's been wet, dry, it's got mold in it, and the hard structural part where you put all your stuff on is toast, so that is going in the bin. Just had a look, they're fairly readily available, so I'm just gonna buy a new one. But we've made incredible amount of progress, and we're this close to driving the car, so next episode on this car will be driving it, which is dead exciting. I need some other things like door cards and stuff like that, but I'm gonna have to search far and wide for those. But if you're enjoying this and you're ready to see this drive, let me know. And if you have if you're from the northwest and you have like an old car, like a Mark 1, Mark 2, Mark 3, Scirocco, Corrado, Jetta, please let me know, because I'd like a few photos, like a load of old cars together, because that'd be mint, to be fair. So at this point, right, it's been like about a week since the last time I picked up this camera. I can't remember what I haven't filmed, so let's just pick up from wherever. As you can see back here, cheap coilovers from Facebook Marketplace. Reason being, I want BC Racing coilovers. They are also £1,000. I have also spent a lot of money on this build recently, so that's not viable right now. So Facebook Marketplace coilovers, found them for 100 quid. Might as well slap them on. So, but let me take you to the car and let me show you what's good. So coming over to the car, You see we've got the headlights mounted, we got our grille down there with some like hella spots, spot covers. Here's our engine. Nothing's really changed here, everything's just sort of buttoned up. That coolant tank's now mounted. Let me take you to the interior, because that's probably where the most has actually changed. I need new door handles. I can never get this one open first time. There you go. Door card's off. That door card is absolutely ruined, but we have an interior, which is amazing. Carpet's in, seat is in. I guess these have always wobbled. I want some Mark 5 Golf GTI seats in here because they are very, very comfortable. Got a cool little gear knob, eBay special that. I haven't got the clock surrounds in yet, so I wanted to make sure this all worked. But if I come in here, see that's lit up all nicely. Turn the key. We have a rev gauge. Obviously the exhaust is still off right now, so it's crazy loud, but we have rev gauges, the fan that I put on a switch, I didn't really have much of a choice. I will put a better switch in, or I will wire it in at some point, so it comes in automatically, but I've made do with what I got. But I really need to bleed these brakes and fit these coilovers, so that's what we're going to do right now in the pouring rain. Because the ramp, I don't know if you can see, but there is a car still on the ramp, so I can't use it, so it's going to be on the floor. But we're going to get the brake bleeder out, we're going to bleed these brakes, and we're going to put the coilovers on at the same time, starting from the back left corner through to the front right. So last night when I actually started filming the coilover bit, I got rained out. It was raining so heavy, and like even though I got this shelter, it was raining like this way into it, so I was soaking wet, couldn't get my camera out. So let's continue it today. We need to bleed the brakes and put them coilovers on. So I'm going to show you now on the back right hand corner is where I'm starting now. I did the back left, but like I said, it was raining so hard that I couldn't film it. So, but it's the same, back left, back right, it's basically the same. So let me show you that now and we'll get going. So first, I am actually going to start under the bonnet. So yesterday, I already had the pressure bleeder hooked up. If you don't know what this is a pressure bleeder. There's brake fluid in there. You hook it onto your brake fluid reservoir, and then all you do, pump this up like this, up to a good pressure, and then you can crack the bleed nipple on the caliper, and it will spray fluid out. So nowhere near it. It takes ages to pump up there. So I'm going to pump that up, and then we'll make our way to the back where the caliper that we need to bleed next is. We're going to do all four, but last night when I used this on the other caliper, it wasn't working too well. So I've got a feeling that I'm going to have to like, manually bleed it with like a mate. So that's 30 psi. Let's go to the back and bleed.
So as you can see here, we're just going to buzz this wheel off really quickly, and then below it is the new disc, new hub, new caliper. I discovered that there was a little bit of play in the wheel bearing, so I thought this would be the opportunity to tap this hub off, this hub cap, which is really annoying to get off, and finally get it off, take the split pin off, which is holding in the castle nut cover, which stops the hub nut from moving. Very old school design, but it's what we've got to deal with. So I adjust it, make sure there's no more play, put that cover back on and a new split pin, and then we can go through to installing the coilover.
So you would have just seen me adjust the wheel bearing. When I jacked it up, I noticed there's a little bit of up and down play, so I thought I would just do that quickly. Obviously this had a new caliper on it. I snapped the bleed nipple, so I just chose to get a new caliper. I got the wrong size spanner, so let me go get the right size one. But yeah, so we just tightened up that wheel bearing ever so slightly, and then when we put it on the floor and let it sit with some weight on it, and then potentially drive it, we'll just jack up the vehicle again and recheck for any play. But 10mm on the brake nipple, Just crack that off. Yeah, there's so much air in there. Nothing's even coming out. That's crazy. A little tiny bit puffed out, and then like that was it. But the pressure bleeder doesn't seem to be like pushing it through very well. So like I've just cracked that off. To me, a load of air's come out, but the pressure it's not dropped. So I need to pump this up a little bit more. There, we're just over 30 psi there, so I can crack this. Leave it for a second. Check that pressure bleeder. Then that will tell me if I need to do this again with somebody else or not. So nothing's coming out that nipple. Like maybe 2 drops have come out, which means I don't think it's working very well. I think the pressure seems to have dropped and or dropping. Yeah, it's dropping, so it's pushing something through. So I'm just going to leave it for a minute, see if that makes a difference, and do it a little bit more. But that is a brand new caliper, as you can see. So there shouldn't be anything wrong with that caliper. This needs a bit of a refurb, but this car is a work in progress, so we will get it done as and when. But I'm going to finish bleeding the brakes, and then when I'm on to taking the shock out, I will pick you back up again and show you what we're doing. So for this next bit, at the back of the shock, we'll literally have a singular 17, which I've already cracked off, and then I'm just unscrewing it out now. The other side you can whiz it all the way out of the gun, but this side you have the fuel tank in the way, so it's a bit more difficult, I guess. There you go. That's one rear bolt out, you can see, because of that tension on that. We're going to struggle to get that out of there, but we will figure out a way. So, up to the top. So this bit here is going to be considerably harder to film. I'll just hit my head on the boot. But we have this bolt here, which I believe is a 17 again. Underneath that is another 17, and then the strut just drops out. So I'm going to whiz them off. Next thing you'll see is the strut on the floor. So now we have the suspension strut on the floor. We need this spacer right here. So again, 17mm, whip that off, and then we can get that spacer. So we all know how this should be done, and we all know how it's going to be done. So do not do this at home or do it at your own risk. There we go. Just like that, we've got what we need from this side. I can go to the side and we can build up the new coil. And just like that, that's built and ready to get back in the car. Remember, these are only a temporary measure. I do want a really nice set of coilovers like BC Racing or APs or something like that, but this is just to try and get rid of that monstrous gap. We all know what brand these are. Are they great? Are they bad? They're somewhere in the middle. You get what you pay for with these at the end of the day, and they're going to serve a purpose, and a pretty good one. So back in, through the top, bolt in the bottom, nuts and cups on the top, and then we are good to go. And we'll go over to the front. You can already see how much higher that hub is actually sitting in the arch. Well, that tire's flat, so I need to sort that. To be fair, the back tires aren't too bad, but the front tires definitely need replacing, so that's definitely on the list. But we can get this wheel back on. Try to. I've got not got any spigot rings on here, so it makes it very, very difficult to line up these wheels. There you go, we've got one in. Just Just need to, and then I can move my foot. There's lots of forklifts around this morning. Right, there you go, that's lined up. Should be able to get a wheel bolt in there. No, it's gone tight. There's nothing harder than putting on wheels that don't have centering rings or spigot rings or whatever you want to call them. It does just make it stupidly hard. But we've done it. So run these down. The nuts will centre them out. You know what I mean? We have got the covers for these, and no more play in that wheel bearing, I don't think. Maybe a tiny bit, but not a lot. And it spins nicely. Let's drop this. That, I can't remember what it was before, but that looks alright really, I think. Certainly less bouncy. Might have to drop them a little bit, but that is considerably better than the arch gap before. I mean, if you look at the arch gap at the front and then the back, certainly lower. So let's move to the front. So because the rain is back again, I'm going to do the near side front off camera, and then I'll pick you up when I'm doing the offside front so I can show you what is going on. But we're making good progress, and hopefully I can drive it in this video, even if it's just round our industrial estate. That'd be so cool. So coming over to the front right of the vehicle, we have got obviously our shock assembly, and I'm going to show you what we're going to do. So basically we need a 19 and we need a 19 spanner, which I've got right here, and then we've got 2 bolts, one here, and we just got to get rid of this little bit of rubber which attaches the brake line to the strut, and then we're going to get our gun, because I'm lazy, it's already got 19 on it. That on one end. Not long had this off, so it should be a breeze really. That's one off, or the nut off anyway. And then down at the bottom we have the same thing again, and then that's that. Give this a wiggle. While you're wiggling this, the bolt, which in theory should just come out. There's one. And then there's 2. And then we need to go to the top of the engine after this. Jesus Christ. They always get stuck at the last bit. There we go, that's that out. Then we need a 21 up on the top. I'll show you. 21 on the top, which takes that bolt out. And then we've had to make a special tool, but I'll show you that in a minute. Buzz that off, strut comes out. So I'll put you down here. It's held in by this top hat and this nut that goes in there. That's what holds it up. That is now ready to come away. Give it a wiggle. Like that. Find somewhere for the strut to go. I've done this the wrong side. Down and out. That is our old strut assembly. Don't know if that bearing's like absolutely shagged or not, but I can get new ones. But you can see in here, it's not a regular nut in there, which is why I made this tool here out of a 14mm spanner, 14mm socket. I've just cut off, left 2 bits that goes down onto there, and then we can rip it straight off with the gun. I'm using my 3/4 inch gun, so my little 1/2 inch is absolutely dead. Go on here, don't know how well you can see this, and then just Whoa. Obviously you should compress the spring, but that is how we get it all apart. And then what we need to do is on the other strut, put it all back together. That's screwed, that. Look at that. That's actually done for. To be fair, I don't think what I'm putting on is much better, but I don't care. We need it to sit a little bit lower. So in reverse, we'll get the new strut back on. So for the coilover, spring on, here's our mounting bracket. Then we need to get our top hat or top mount or whatever you may know it as onto there. To get a couple of threads on in this bolt, which is not the easiest because you can't really grab onto anything. I don't know if that's spinning or not. And then you shouldn't really do these up with an impact, but as this is only a temporary measure, I'm not really too bothered. There you go. And that is that ready to go back on. So in reverse order, we'll put that in there, a couple of bolts through there, sorted. So we'll go up. Actually, we need to put that end in first and then go up. Yeah, I'm definitely going to order new top mounts with new bearings because they did not feel in the best condition. And then get that up there, get that top thread on a few screws. I don't know if we can let that dangle now. We're going to get that top thread on a little bit before we put it in the bottom. I am just spinning the shock. Right, that's just spinning. So we're going to have to do that another way. Right, and then when we come back down here, that on there, might need to lift it up a little bit, lift it up and wiggle it into place. There you go, there's one. And then there's two. Thread that back on, just like that. And then, you know it, we can get the gun with the 19 and we can tighten them back up. And then that, literally, coilovers, I used to think was such a long job, but when you compare it to other jobs, it's not that bad. It's really not that bad. And then we just need to finish tightening up that top mount, and that is our coilovers done. And would you look at that? It's not slammed. The back could do with coming down a little bit, but that looks 110 times better than on the other coilovers or standard suspension, as you can see right there. Standard, not standard. And like I said, this is only a temporary measure until I can get something really, really good like BC Racing coilovers or APs or something like that. 110 times better, probably make the ride a little bit nicer as well. But there's where we're currently sitting. So after all of that excitement, we've ran into a problem. I just started the car because I thought let's take it for a little spin, like I said I would in this video, but I've got my torch here, so let me show you. Right down here, I don't know if you can see down there, but the brake servo is actually now catching on the cam gear, which is no good. It makes a horrible noise. It could write off the brake servo, it could write off the cam gear, and it's not worth driving. So I'm going to need to order a couple of engine mounts. I'm guessing the engine is just started to sag like this, but it's not the end of the world. It wouldn't do it bad. We're going to replace that engine mount right down here, which is in a cup on the subframe. Just getting my torch. That one down there, we're going to replace that, and then there's an engine mount below there which we will also replace. But let's have a chat about this car right now. So as you know, I said we will drive this in this video, but I'm not risking writing off that cam gear, the belt shearing, or the brake servo just to drive it in this video. Unfortunately, that is just the way it is, but I've got everything in my way now. But what we'll do is we'll get two new engine mounts, which should bolster that engine up high enough to clear that, which is fine, it's no problem. We'll get that ordered, so next video we'll be driving, I promise you that. I absolutely promise you that. Off camera, I'm going to button all this up, probably going to put the headline in back in, I'm going to put this front grille back on. I don't know why I took it off. To do a repair on the bonnet catch, which was just replacing a spring, so it wasn't anything worth filming. I need to replace some other small little bits, brake bleed potentially, because the pressure bleeder just wasn't pushing it through. So I think we're gonna have to go for a manual bleed where somebody steps on the pedal, opens the bleed nipple, rinse and repeat. But this is so cool. I've loved this journey so far, and the fact that next video is going to be me driving it, it's going to be absolutely crazy. So if you've been here from the start, let me know. If you're enjoying this, let me know in the comments. If you'd want to see another Mark II Golf with a different engine, let me know, because I'm really intrigued to do another one, potentially with, I don't know, any engine, or like an old Beamer or something like that. It'd be so cool. I love these old cars. So if you're enjoying this, don't forget to like, comment and subscribe to keep up to date. But yeah, we've come so far, and the fact that we're nearly at the point where we can go now is incredible. And put that cap back on. Obviously, just remember, like with the coilovers, they were cheap, they were second hand. I do want another set, probably BCs or APs, like I said earlier. But we're working with what we got. Now, I think a good set of engine mounts are a good 150 quid anyway, so you know, I want to get those bits all buttoned up first, and then I can do the nice suspension and all that sort of stuff. Potentially do a brake upgrade. But yeah, like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you on the next video when we are actually driving this car.